How's it going, everybody? Wayne here. So I decided to complete the entire N64 complete in box library right here on the show. I'm going to collect all 296 complete in the original box and show you how much it costs to put that collection together. In case you didn't know, I traded my entire boxed N64 collection last year for stadium events. That was to complete my NES library. Fly. Before I jump into collecting the complete library, I wanted to show you some of the tips I use for collecting complete libraries. Now, these are tips I use and not necessarily set in stone way to do it. These are just the methods that have worked best for me. The number one tip is to focus. This is the hardest step, especially for me. I enjoy collecting games for all kinds of libraries: Wii, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, you name it. And it's really hard to focus on just one collection when you collect for so much. This step doesn't really matter if you don't care how long it takes you to complete the entire library. But if you want to complete it in a reasonable time, it's important to focus on only that library. Of course, there's always going to be deals out there that you can't pass up, and don't pass up on them if it's too good of a deal. The key point is to focus the best you can on that library. My second tip is to buy in lots. Now, this is a pretty self-explanatory tip, and it seems like a pretty common sense tip. But when you're starting off, you want to definitely buy in lots. Games are always cheaper in lots. If you go out and buy games one by one, it's going to take you a lot of time, and it's going to be a lot more expensive than if you're going out and buying big lots. And don't worry about getting a couple duplicates. You can always turn around and trade those or sell those for games you don't have. When I was going for the NES library, I would often buy big lots off eBay with the console and a few Mario games, and then a bunch of other games I didn't have for $100, $125. And then I would turn around and sell the console with Mario locally for about the same price that I bought the whole lot for, and then I would add a bunch of games to my collection for almost nothing, or sometimes I would even make a little money adding games to my collection. Now, that might be frowned upon by some people, but I don't really care. My third tip, as you get further into collecting the library, buying in lots isn't going to cut it anymore. Eventually, there's going to be too many duplicates and you're going to be tired of dealing with them. So the third tip is to find a reseller or somebody getting rid of their game collection. You can often find people selling a bunch of titles, and you can pick out the exact ones you need. And the more you buy, the better it is. Not all resellers are out to make a ton of money off of you. There are some very reasonably priced resellers out there that will give you good deals the more you buy. When I first started collecting, I couldn't stand resellers. I thought they were all evil, all out there to just make money and sell things for ridiculous prices. But when collecting the NES library, I had one specific reseller who was selling me a lot of games, and because I bought so much for them, they were way cheaper than what I could have got them off of eBay for. And the more I bought at a time, the more discount he would give me. My fourth tip is don't be afraid to sacrifice. Again, this tip is only important if you're trying to complete a library quickly. If you don't care how long it takes to complete a library, then it doesn't matter. But if you're trying to complete a library pretty fast, don't be afraid to sell some of your other games, especially popular ones for other systems. For me, GameCube is always the first to go. I've probably had about 5 or 6 copies of Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, Zelda Twilight Princess. Those are some of my favorite games. But they're always easy to get back. There's a lot of copies out there. They're not really going to go up too much in price. They might go up a couple bucks, maybe even $5. But some of the other games that I'm after might go up a lot more. I'll be honest, sometimes it stinks. I'm looking for my copy of Double Dash to play and then realize that I sold it. But, you know, I'll get it back eventually. It really is a small price to pay when you've accomplished such a big goal in the end. My final tip is one of the most important. You definitely want to try to start with rare or expensive titles. Collecting a complete library is exhausting, and I've seen so many collectors get to the very end and then give up. You go on Nintendo Age and on the forums there, you're looking through them, people are like, help me out with my last 5-10 games. You click on it and it's Little Samson, Stadium Events, Ha Ha Ha, Flintstones, Surprise at Dinosaur Peak. They got all the rare ones left. They went all this way and now they're stuck trying to find these hard titles. And the reason that it's important to start with these titles is a lot of these titles go up so much in price over the time it takes you to complete the rest of the library. I used this method when I was collecting the NES library, and games like Kid Clown when I started were under $100 easily, and towards the end of the library they were reaching up around $250. So it's very disappointing when you get to that point if you hadn't collected those games yet and saw that they doubled or even tripled in price. That's why you want to start with the rare games and most expensive games first, because they can increase in value to a point where you don't even want to go after them anymore. Just last week I saw somebody was selling their entire collection. They're like, I'm only 8 games away from completing the NES library and I'm selling them all now. And that's because their last games were all the rare and expensive ones that have increased so much in value since they first started the collection. They went through all that exhaustion to get to the finish line and realized that they were paying a lot more in the end. So they just gave up. That's why you really want to focus on the library you're collecting and figure out what's going to be hard to get, what's rare. And just as important as the rare games, you want to try to get the uncommon games too, because those can go up in price as well. Even though they're extremely cheap, they're hard to find, and there might be a demand for that game just because it's so hard to find. For example, Monaco Grand Prix Complete in Box for the N64. I knew that title was hard to find. It doesn't pop up very often, and sure enough, that thing jumped over $50 before I knew it, when it originally was just a $10 game. I think I ended up finding mine for $30. An example on the NES would be Cool World. This was $40 when I first bought it. I think the price is probably still the same, I don't really know. But there was only one copy of Cool World on eBay when I bought it. So games like this, where there's not very many available, you definitely want to pick them up first, along with the rare and expensive titles. So those are my top 5 tips for collecting a complete game library. As I said, those are my tips that I use. I live in Japan, so I'm pretty much limited to eBay and Nintendo Age and Facebook groups because there's not any American games for sale locally here, usually. And I'll be jumping into collecting the complete N64 library using these tips right here on this show and showing you how much it costs to put a complete library together today. So if you're not subscribed already, please go ahead and click the subscribe button if you want to see me complete the Complete in Box N64 library. It's actually going to be my 3rd time doing it. The first time was card only. Second time was in the original box. I was missing some manuals like Sculptor's Cut. But I've completed the N64 library twice already. This will be my 3rd time. And I'm really excited to do it right here on this channel. Until next time, I'm Wayne, and thanks for watching.